Provincial and municipal leaders are working to soften the blow of U.S. tariffs, but a new report from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce says St. John is going to feel the effects most. On a list of 41 Canadian cities, St. John was ranked the most vulnerable due to its reliance on U.S. exports. The city is home to Canada's largest crude oil refinery. More than 80% of its oil heads south of the border. St. John is also a huge export market for lumber and seafood. So for more on the impacts, how they'll feel on the ground, I'm joined by St. John's Mayor Donna Reardon. Welcome to your morning. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Listen, I've been to St. John. It is a lovely and beautiful community. You have a population of just over 73,000 people. But so much of your industry is reliant south of the border. How likely will residents feel the immediate effects of these tariffs?
Well, I think there's no doubt that there will be immediate effects in regards to slowdowns. I mean, contracts, will they still be negotiated going forward? There may be layoffs. But the other thing about all of this is that with those huge exports, what is the U.S.'s ability to pivot from these Canadian exports to another source? So I think it's probably a longer game for us because we do have such a great amount of exports that are going out.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we know in some industries these tariffs could mean shutdowns. I'm speaking specifically about automakers, but for oil refineries and lumber, what will the impacts look like? You know, in the automakers, we're talking about layoffs potentially within 10 days. What about in these other industries?
Well, for oil, as you know, it's 25% sweeping across the board. Now, auto, producers, that's different now. It's changed again on another day. Energy is down to 10% now. So, I mean, it's hard to really say because the situation is so volatile. And every day, I'm clicking on the radio to find out what's happening today, who's being impacted today, and all of the collateral damage. When you make these sweeping blanket statements like Trump has done, I mean, it's very difficult to measure what the impact's going to be. Well, I was going to say we do have, economic development agency here that is supported by the entire region, and that they'll work with Opportunities New Brunswick, they'll work with the Canadian exporters, they'll work with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and our local Chamber of Commerce. So I mean, everybody's linking together now to try to figure out what the impacts are and how do we mitigate them as we move through this.
We know that U.S. President Trump has said he wants to move industries like the auto sector back to the U.S. Canada ships about $1.5 billion in lobster to the U.S., which makes up the majority of their supply. That's obviously an industry that can't be moved. You can't get all the lobster to then go south of the border. Do you have some leverage then when it comes to the fishing industry?
Well, the other interesting thing, though, is that the interprovincial trade barriers, which are significant for our country, and it's been created this parochial relationship amongst the provinces over all of these years, and it's easier and quicker and more reliable to export to the U.S. So that needs to be cured. And that's what the federal government and the provincial governments have agreed and committed to, looking at how they can adjust those. Will there be, hiccups with that? Absolutely. That's not going to be easy either. But at the end of the day, I guess for us, I think if you have that bad boyfriend that you're living with that's threatening you every day, that's, hitting you and then says, if you do better, your punishment will be less, when you don't know what your punishment is. Do you want to stay in that relationship, or do you want to develop a new relationship with your own peers across the country? I say that's what we need to do.
Yeah, you've used this comparison before about needing to break up with the U.S., but, as you and I know, there are different kinds of breakups, right? There's an amicable divorce, there's expensive divorces, there's, contentious ones. So what would a breakup with the U.S. actually looks like? Like, who gets the house and who gets the dog?
Well, we're getting apparently joint custody of Ryan Gosling and Ryan Reynolds. So, but I guess who gets what? At the end of the day, we need to look at what is best for Canada, what is best for New Brunswick, and as we go through this. I mean, the other thing that we've done is we've basically given the U.S. the key to the front door. We have all this border patrol that's going on right now for, this red herring called fentanyl, and all of that data is being shipped to the U.S. So, we need to increase our security for our own benefit and look at how we can secure Canada. And the other thing that we can do is we can invest, the federal government can invest in infrastructure that would allow, but would reduce trade barriers. You have the Isthmus of Chignecto, which everybody's been talking about, that Nova Scotia, St. Halifax has a huge port. Those goods come across the country. That piece of infrastructure is being, with climate change and rising tides, the Isthmus that connects Nova Scotia to New Brunswick is being washed away. The tracks are apparently the only thing holding it up there. That needs to be invested in. We've just spent $1 million patrolling a border. $1 million could have changed that. We need to ensure that we have trade across our own country. And we need to make sure that Canadians can have access to the goods that are produced in Canada. A couple of years ago, we couldn't get a car here. The car lots were empty. All of the cars from Canada were going into the U.S. We were waiting like a year and a half on a wait list for our vehicle. That should not be happening. So there's lots of opportunity there.
Madam Mayor, what's your word to constituents who stop you on the street and say, listen, what is going on and what's going to happen to us?
I say I don't know what's going on. Every day is different. Every day I wake up, I don't know what Trump is going to do. I mean, he now, after slapping all these tariffs on us, he says, if you do better, I may reduce those. Do better at what? What are we doing wrong? We have no idea what we're doing wrong. We have no idea what will appease him. I mean, this fentanyl thing, like I said, is a red herring. So how can you live in that unstable environment and actually be successful and productive? It's impossible. So, it's just a day-by-day thing, unfortunately, right now for us.
Mayor of St. John, New Brunswick, Donna Reardon, a pleasure to have you on the show this morning. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.